Thank you, Devin, for the introduction, and thank you, Catherine, so much for the transition. That was great. So we're going to start here with a story. So I'm sitting at Cosi Restaurant, trying desperately, as all you moms who are trying to get work done as well know, if you can get a quiet spot, I'm sitting there on my computer trying to get some work done. I got a phone call from a friend of mine, and she said, Donna, I need your help. We had a crisis last night in our family, and I just need some advice. I said, all right, what happened? She said, she has 3 kids. One's a teenager, he's got ADD, big into music, really good kid, but struggling, he's a teen. Okay, so, and then she has 2 younger kids who go to school with my kids. And she said, all right, last night we went out to dinner. We asked our oldest child to stay with our 2 younger kids, and we just went out, you know, right next, at a restaurant, and we got a call, a frantic call, and we couldn't even figure out what he was saying from our son. We got home, and it was just destruction. The house was a disaster. Finally, what they figured out had happened was his iPod or his computer or something with all of his music had fallen into the toilet. It was destroyed, and he was distraught. And so what his reaction to that was he ran around the house and just destroyed things. Okay, he's responsible for his 2 younger sisters. He's going through this. And so what did her husband do as they got home? Started screaming. So screaming match ensued. They're yelling at one another. Finally, he runs out the door, the teenager. And she's sort of getting everybody to bed, trying to figure stuff out. Figured he just walked outside, trying to figure stuff out. They got a call about half an hour later. He was 3 miles down the road. It was 11 o'clock at night in December. I think it was in December, November or December, in New York. So it was cold, he was barefoot. It was 11 o'clock at night in the middle of the city. He had run 3 miles. So she said, what can I do? We don't want this to happen again. Nothing happened to him, it was fine. But it was sort of this aha moment for me when I was putting it together, because my platform has always been resilience. We need to build resilience and integrity through the universal experience of challenge. So all of a sudden, as I was telling her what she could do, it all came together as a plan, all the things that I had been working on. And it was, our resilience is our response to challenge, any challenge. So if we can begin to teach kids how to handle challenge, whether that challenge is iPod falling in the toilet, whether that challenge is sexual abuse, whether that challenge is cancer, whether that challenge is bullying, doesn't matter what it is. If we can teach them the skills to handle challenge with resilience and integrity, we have given them the world. I work with a guy who was paralyzed in college. I went to college with him freshman year. He was paralyzed, became the most decorated male Paralympic skier in the world. They just did a movie about him climbing Kilimanjaro. And I worked with him on an education program. That's the Name Tags education program. And his message is, it's not what happens to you, it's what you do with what happens to you. Universal experience of challenge. So what we're going to talk about is our resilience formula plan. So, okay, we got a plan in place. So picture this kid, teenager, we're in crisis here. So we came up with, what are the things, if we want to plan ahead, what do we do? So this is what I talked to his mom about. I said, first off, you got to have a plan, because when you are emotional, our brain, I'm going to do a quick Dan Siegel here. I don't know whether you know, he's a, neurobiologist. He talks about the brain, and he says, okay, the palm here, this is our most basic fight or flight. Okay, this is, our basic stuff. This is our emotion. This is our prefrontal cortex. We also know that teens don't have these developed yet, but we'll go on with that later. So when we get emotional, fearful, angry, sad, all of this, what happens is we transfer the amygdala, which is this part, takes over our prefrontal cortex. We don't have access to it. So in that moment, when the dad got home, he didn't have a prefrontal cortex. Neither did his son. So is this a good time for them to be discussing this? No. So I said, first off, what you have to do is create what I call a trigger script. I love the fact that you used trigger, because it was trigger scripts. I do something called scripting that I'll talk about in a minute. But a trigger script is something that can very quickly transfer. When you're at the amygdala stage, you can fight or flight, okay? So this is triggering a flight instinct. For my kids at home, we start when they're really, really little, and it's separate steps, or steps. If there are two of them, separate steps. If they're together, steps. As it gets later on, they can change wherever that is. Now, I still have the same trigger script that I say, steps, and they go. They now know that that is just a trigger for them to get their prefrontal cortex back. I don't want to talk to you till you have your prefrontal cortex back. Call it a timeout, call it whatever you want, but get that prefrontal cortex back before you're going to talk to me. I don't want to talk. And so the next step is knowing ahead of time where they can go. What can they do while they're calming down, while they're getting that prefrontal cortex back? My kids say, guinea pigs help me. We call it guinea pig therapy. They say, when you say steps, can I go to the guinea pig? Sure. Can I go to the piano? Sure. Whatever. Figure it out. For this kid, for Eric, the guy who dropped his iPod in the toilet, his parents decided he was old enough that he needed a place outside, needed a place with music, so he had drumsticks in a tent in the backyard. That was what they came up with. So whenever he got triggered that, all right, you're out of control, you got to move, he ran to his tent. That was his tent, backyard, go. So they have to know what the parameters are and figuring that out ahead of time. So we got the trigger script, we got a place to go that's safe, not 3 miles away at 11 o'clock at night. Then the next step in it is, okay, how are they going to get back? When they've got their prefrontal cortex back, we say to kids, use your words. They don't have them. They don't know how to do it. They don't know how to approach adults. They don't know what to do. So we need to give them, okay, what's the reentry script? For my kids, it's ready to talk now. Okay, that works. Now, if they're saying, I'm ready to talk now, clearly they don't have their prefrontal cortex back. So I say, no, really, you're still in your amygdala. Go back. Sometimes they say, I'm ready to talk now. And they are, but I'm not. Okay? Because my amygdala is still there. I'm ticked. So, no, you're not ready to talk now because I'm not ready to talk now. And they both, whoever's upset, have to both be ready to talk before you get there. So we meet back. And you know what? They can't argue with that. When they say, I'm ready to talk now, and I say, I'm not ready to talk now, they can't argue that because I'm going to say something that I don't mean, and they know that. I'll give you a funny trigger script. By the way, this works for adults as well as kids. My trigger script that my kids give to me is, how many people watch Avatar, The Last Airbender? The cartoon? Awesome cartoon. Okay, do you know who's, gosh, now I'm forgetting her name. What's the, Azula. Azula. So how do we describe Azula? Evil incarnate. I mean, evil. So one day my daughter says to me, Mom, when you're mad at us, to us you're like Azula. Oh my God, does that hurt? So I said to her, okay, next time you see Azula come out, I want you to say to me, Mom, Azula. She did. I walked away, and I was not Azula. It's very effective. So, okay, so we get a trigger script, we get a place to go to calm down, we get a reentry script, we know where to go, we have a script of, okay, now we have what's called scripting. Kids, use your words, figure it out. They have no idea how to figure stuff out. So what we need to do is teach them from whether the challenge is on the playground figuring out a toy, whether sharing a toy, or whether the challenge is your iPod in the toilet, whatever, or bullying, whatever it is, they need to know how to stick up for themselves, how to negotiate. I got to tell you, I don't know many adults who do a good job of negotiating and know what to say, particularly when they're angry. So this is when we usually sit down and figure it out. And the reason it's called scripting is it's kind of like theater. You're literally feeding them the words and saying, okay, so what you're saying is, Jenna, I'm really, really sorry that I kicked you and really hurt you, but you know what? When I'm on the couch reading, can you please listen to me when I say stop, stop, stop? So being able to know how to apologize, being able to know the words to say. Scripting is so incredibly effective. So many people say to me, you know, how do I get my kids to say please and thank you? I said, all right, if they want a cookie, what do you say? They say, can I have a cookie? And then I say, what do you say? And they say, please. And I said, well, you know that brain pathway? That brain pathway is, can I have a cookie? Please. Two separate pathways. You're not going to get it together unless you have them repeat back, may I have a cookie, please? They will learn how to negotiate and how to work out of situation if you teach them the words. So it may be that Eric's mom needs to say to him, Eric, I need you to say, I'm really sorry that we destroyed the house. I was really, really upset, and work out what that is. So literally feeding the words, whether it's an argument between siblings and you're feeding them the words to apologize. I mean, sometimes it's really quick, sometimes it takes forever. But learning those strategies to work that out really gives them the skills. Apologies are so important. So many teachers or parents make kids apologize when they're really not sorry. My 6-year-old came to me and she said, Mom, the teachers always make us apologize to each other, but we're really not sorry. We're really not sorry because they don't talk it out. And so she said, later on, when I calm down, when I've got my prefrontal cortex back, I go and I work it out with them until we figured it out. And then we really apologize and we mean it. I'm like, great, that's really good. But it works. It really, really works if they've got that plan in place and they know what's coming up, they know how to handle it. So we have finding a safe place to calm down. We have a trigger script to get to that place as quickly as possible. We have a script to get back in when they're ready to talk. Then we have scripting through, and eventually they learn how to do it. Now, I send them back to the kitchen table and I'm cooking dinner and they're discussing, and if it starts elevating, then I'll say, back to the steps. And they don't like that, so they try and work it out, and they're getting much better. And then usually there's some sort of, if it's something elevated, they kind of need to make it up. So the last step is sort of figuring out, all right, what do we do with this? Is there a consequence? Is there a way? But why is this part of the bullying talk? Because it doesn't matter. If kids know how to calm themselves down, breathing, how to get away from the situation. When I talk about resilience, I say resilience has 4 S's. Our response to any challenge, no matter what that challenge is, has to do with our understanding of self, as you talked about, the situation. How do we judge that situation? Did Eric judged that situation as something that was just, okay, I can handle this, I can work through this, or did he judge it as tragedy? Clearly he judged it as tragedy, which affected his response. The third S is support structures. Do they have people to go to, and do they know how to go to them? We tell them to go to teachers, but they don't know what to say. So they have to know exactly what to say. And then if that person doesn't help, then who else are you going to go to? Well, if that doesn't happen, who else are you going to go to? What are you going to say to them? What if they respond this way? They need to know particular support structures and how to access them. And then the last S is specific strategies as to what they're going to do. Our response has to do, our resilience is how we respond, has to do with those 4 S's no matter what the situation. And what we're aiming for is integrity. So often, we as humans, just like our amygdala takes over, we don't naturally respond with integrity. We are afraid in the workplace to talk back. We see Sandusky. That's natural. Our natural response is to hide things. So we need to know why that is, and we need to know specific strategies of how to do things beyond that. We have to know why. We have to know ourselves. We have to know why we're making those choices. And because those choices are hard. I'm sure when you were writing that email, your heart was in your throat. I'm sure that as much as, you know, I'm not going to stick up for what happened with Sandusky, but we're able to convince ourselves. I mean, we heard the parents saying that, you know, that teacher was innocent. We want to hide things. So we need to bring a culture of integrity and realize that it is a choice. It's choosing courage and integrity, because that's what it takes. Thank you very, very much.
Thanks, Donna.